I think
Well,
that's a little
that's
bit of a
oh no, that's your
go ahead.
heritage. I don't know. I feel like sometimes people might be disrespectful not to say that, but I just call everyone American. You know, you
Mm.
live in America, you're American. So that's what I say.
Anybody else?
I think I think that's a little bit of a multifaceted question, and that's
I
got
just whatever your perspective is on it right now. Like there is right now, there's no right or wrong answer. Like
I
whatever you think.
think I think traditionally it is hyphenated because, like you said, traditionally one race has been kind of seen as the default, or the standard, if you will, and it could be out of respect, or it could be just to, differentiate and hold certain status quos uh, in place. I mean, there's like a billion different ways you could go with that question that lead to like different types of arguments or discussions.
Hmm.
But um, but yeah, I do agree with Nate in a sense that like if we live in America, like it shouldn't matter. We are like yes, I am African American, but I'm still an American citizen, and I feel like that should just be recognized and like not even have to be brought up. But we're not there, so I feel like that's why we're having conversations like this
Hmm.
because some people are able to see it and some people aren't. So, which is why racism exists in the first place.
To go off of that point, the beginning of what you said, like the African American part, it could be like a respect thing, because first we were the N word, then we were colored, and then we were was it N word, colored, then we're black, and then now we're African American. Could it be as time goes by that they're trying to make it like a respectable thing, or like because I guess we were like judged by these names.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know why we've been given like different names, but I guess that's the order. I guess from what it sounds like, it seems more respectable
Mhm.
as like the different names go by. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just an idea, I guess.
Yeah, my idea is I feel like that you're American first. So I'm American, then I'm like a white American, then you're American, then like you have an Asian culture, then you're American, then you have like a black culture and heritage, but the American part should come before any label or any heritage that you have. Like it's just like because you're American, we're all like a melting pot. That's what makes American great. So you're American first, and then you have like your heritage that you brought to this great country. That's what I believe in.
I think that would be a good way to go about it. Because then it does kind of like it doesn't seem as divisive that way, if you put it that way. Um, but that I don't know. It's just a question that kind of like plagued my mind a little bit. So I was like, we don't call white people European Americans or if they come from like German, unless they're like unless somebody is like sec or first generation or second generation from Germany or something like that, then we will
Unless
do
I'm
that.
speaking German.
Yeah, like if it's something like super obvious, then we try to make that claim. But yeah.
So I'll speak to the narrative that I don't think anyone did say. I guess you could call this being devil's advocate, but I would say that maybe the hyphenation is possibly because no one it introduces ambiguity. Like no one knows what it really is to be American. And I say that only in like maybe this might be jumping the gun, but like in the aspect of like what has taken place in the Americas, there were people who were here before what you would consider the standard American. You look out and you would think the average white person might be the American versus, the hyphenation African American, denoting somewhere else rather than America. Um, there were people that were here first, massacred,
Right.
and then the lands were usurped. So over as excuse me if I say your name, was it Darian? Doc
Darion? Yeah.
Darion. As you were saying, uh, maybe it's a matter of like because it, there were atrocities that happened,
Yeah.
and you say multiple different things. The ambiguity is like, well, we don't really know, and we don't want what happened back then to really be found out. So we just call it the melting pot because we want, this is everyone, but initially this started off that we don't really know who it was. I'm tossing the light. You got the pinky up.
So yeah, I do kind of want to piggyback. I think I just didn't want to be the one to jump that gun, but uh, but yeah, I think the whole melting pot idea is a nice sentiment, but and like it's almost kind of like a mission statement, like for a business, it's like you put something peaceful or welcoming or inviting out there so people will like come to your business, or your establishment. But they might not. That statement might not actually reflect the views of the people there. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to like simplify this and make this relatable and not like harp too much. But yeah, I think that the melting pot thing is a nice sentiment, and it's something that I've heard my entire life. It's a phrase I've seen in history books, but I don't think it's a sentiment that like all people in this country share. And that's a big part of the problem, because the hyphenation between or the hyphenation in African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Native American could be to differentiate and also to kind of subconsciously keep us believing that the standard American is a straight white male. You know what I mean? And I guess that's me playing devil's advocate in another direction, because yeah, we're all American because we're American citizens. We all live here, but there's still people who don't see us that way. And on one hand, it is a respect thing because we were called derogatory names when our ancestors were brought here, or the Native American ancestors were slaughtered and all that. So it is kind of just like a thing with progression of society in general. So I do believe that part of the reason is to grow and respect those groups of people. But I think that another reason behind it is to kind of keep certain barriers in place. So there's certain social uh, we always stay on like different rungs on the social ladder. It's like so that's me being like devil's advocate and like conspiracy theorist, but I think it's an interesting conversation to potentially be had.
Devin, Sasha, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Can somebody explain the whole melting pot thing? Because I'm actually not quite sure what you guys are talking about when you say that.
Anybody want to take that?
So the theory of a melting pot is essentially if you take multiple different aspects. So you yourself, you said you're Caucasian. You identify as Caucasian. The lower rung would say they're black, and above Nate said he German, and DJ, I'm sorry, you said mixed, right?
Yeah.
So all of that, not knowing the specific contents of what makes the mix, you just throw them all. America is the land of the free, home of the brave. So the opportunity for each individual being to have residence in America, it's a melting pot. As far as the cultural aspects that come with their race or whatever, maybe ethics, religion, everything like that. Anything that makes the individual an individual, and then they come into the collective of others that are individuals that may have differing viewpoints and different lifestyles and everything. If they're all in the same area, general basis, it's a melting pot where you try to find uniformity amongst all the majority, even though there's differences on the individual basis. If that makes sense.